Welcome to the Caribbean Leadership Project's video series on Thought Leadership on Leadership, where we explore issues of pertinence to leadership in the CARICOM region. I am Dr. Lois Parkes, Regional Project Manager with the Caribbean Leadership Project. We are honored to have as our featured guest, Mrs. Avril Gollop. Mrs. Gollop has the distinction of being the very first female to be appointed as Cabinet Secretary in 1996, and in 2000, she became the first female to be appointed as head of the Civil Service in Barbados. In 1989, she was made a member of the Royal Victorian Order in recognition of her work on the occasion of the visit of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And in 2002, she received the Gold Crown of Merit of Barbados for her work in the public service. In November 2016, on the occasion of Barbados' 50th anniversary of independence, Mrs. Gollop was named one of the 50 public service legends and was also awarded the Barbados Jubilee honor for her meritorious service in Barbados. She has been retired from the public service since 2012. However, she continues to serve in a number of various leadership capacities. This includes serving on the Caribbean Leadership Project's Steering Committee. Mrs. Gollop, we are so honored to have you.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Our first big question, and it's about something big. What do you believe have been the biggest contributors to your success as a leader?
If I look back, it is my family, from young, and my family as it is now. Also, I think that I have an ability to close out negatives, which is very, very difficult for a lot of people. I always used to say, if it is true, I know it already. If it isn't true, it does not matter. And it's a mantra that has served me well. And I also acquired over time self-confidence, quite a bit of self-confidence, which can be termed arrogance, and it has been by some people, but to me it is just self-confidence. And I think that has helped. And I also think basically it's my nature. I tend to be very takeover.
Share with us one of those watershed moments that you believe forever changed how you saw yourself as a leader and how you operated as a leader.
There are two experiences, one within the public service and one without. And I'll deal first with the one without. And this is when I was very, very young. I was about 24. And at my age, that's very, very young. And I was working as a nurse in New York City. And I was in charge of a ward, of a unit. It was a surgical unit. And I was off duty, and I was at home. And I got a call from a surgeon, one of the top surgeons. And she said to me, Ms. Hackett, the wrong patient has come to the operating theater. I stopped. I took about 10 deep breaths, because by now, of course, I'm petrified. And I said to her, but I'm not there. To which she said to me, you are in charge, so it doesn't matter if you're here or not. If you had put systems in order, it would not have happened.
Oh dear.
Which was not really true, but that is how it appeared. Yeah. The systems had broken down. And that's something that has always stayed with me. Whether you're there or not, you were in charge. And this was at 24. And that has stayed with me. And then when I first became an appointed permanent secretary, I went to work in a ministry. And as the new leader, you're sure you know everything. So I had a meeting, and I had to do an assignment. And it was a staff meeting, and I assigned one of the officers. We were going to have a big, big conference, and I assigned one of the officers to be in charge of this conference. Bear in mind, I'd only been there about a month and a half, I would imagine. And I had the meeting, and nobody said anything. There was a quiet in the room, but I couldn't figure it out. And after, one of the typists came and knocked on my door. And she closed the door, and she said to me, I've never seen this lady before I'd gone there. She must have been about all of 5 foot tall. And she came to my office and she said to me, Mrs. Gollop, you don't know me, I don't know you. But what you did today was one of the most foolish things that you'll ever do. I stopped and I listened. And it was a lesson in two things. It was a lesson in confidence on her part. It was a lesson on my part do not jump in as a leader if you do not know the background. She was right.
Wow.
She was right. She ended up being my secretary in Cabinet Office when I chose a secretary.
Okay. What advice would you give your younger self now, knowing all that you know today?
The one I just said, do not jump in at the deep end.
Yes.
And also listen. I think that's one of the things that CLP teaches from early.
Yes.
And you don't know how right you are. Please listen to everybody. It does not matter the level of the person in your office. Once they've been there before you, they know more about it than you.
Yes.
They might not consider themselves a leader, but they certainly know more about it than you. And the other thing that I would say is that you have to, there's a tolerance level that as a young person you really don't have, and it comes with experience. And I think it's something we in CLP need to look at, but we need to look at it everywhere, the level of tolerance that we need to have with people.
Yes.
Stop jumping to conclusions. I think that is part of it. And the other one is, I think, I still do, but I tended to give a lot of blame and not a lot of praise. And I think that's something that would work very well for the young person. It's hard to do.
Yes.
As a young person, is to praise people, but you need to do that more so than blame.
Okay. Lot of deep stuff. Want to change the direction of our discussion here a bit. You have had, perhaps, we just call it the pleasure, of leading a number of transitions of varying sorts throughout your leadership career. And what can you share to other leaders about leading transitions?
The first thing I would say, do not compare. It's easier said than done. There are different people. They're going to come with different ideas. Do not compare. Be patient. A lot of the things that are going to be said are wrong because people come with preconceived notions. But it is not your job as a leader to say you're wrong. You work with them and you sort of guide them, but do not compare. I had a boss who always said to me, listen to all three sides. My side, your side, and the truth. And the truth is going to be different from either side. And you have to be able to listen. And I said you have to have the tolerance. You also need to be neutral. It's hard.
Yes.
Because everybody has an opinion. So you have to learn to be neutral. You also have to allow for mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but the new persons coming in are going to make mistakes too. And you have to be confidential. And I think this is something I can't say enough. If somebody comes to you and says something, if they wanted everybody else to know, it's their role to tell them. It's not yours. So you have to be confidential because people are going to come to you in lots of things. If I can go back to something I said earlier, I started my life as a nurse in New York. And one of the things that you learn is that sick people, when they're at their lowest ebb, tell you a lot of things that they would not share normally.
Yes.
And that's where I think my greatest thing about confidentiality comes in. You cannot share everything you hear.
Yes.
And in transitions, you have to remember that.
You spoke about the fact that mistakes will be made. Particularly in our Caribbean public service environments, there's such a focus on public accountability. You are really in the spotlight. It almost seems as if there is absolutely no room for error because so much is always at stake and what you're doing is being looked at not only by your staff, not only by stakeholders across the public service, but by the country, by the region. So how does a leader balance the need to deliver, and often the need to deliver yesterday, and the fact that mistakes are a par for the course, and that how do you balance, dealing with mistakes, but also being accountable and actually delivering results?
The first thing I would say to that is never be too big to say you made a mistake. A mistake is a part of life. And unless it's going to kill somebody or bring down the country, it is a mistake. You don't make mistakes purposely.
Yeah.
Unless you're really quite silly.
Yeah.
You don't make, when you make a judgment, at that time, it is your best judgment based on the information that you have. Sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's going to be very wrong, but you have to be big enough to admit you made the mistake and come up with ways to make it right.
Yes.
Most mistakes are correctable. Most. You have to make sure you make it right. The other thing I would say about accountability, persons looking on the outside, they have a notion on what is right. They don't know. Most of the time they don't know. And I think it's a lack of education.
Yes.
We don't, if you ask a lot of people dealing with public servants, what do, for instance, when you were CPO, what do you do? They don't know, you know.
That is so true.
They do not know.
Yes.
They make an assumption. In accountability also, you have to know your job. You have to get over what is our overriding problem, and that of fear.
Yes.
You go back to self-confidence, but you have to know your job. You have to pass on to the other people working with you that as a team, we're all accountable.
Yes.
We are all accountable. It is my responsibility, but we are all accountable at every level. So I think that it is important that you, as I said, be able to face up to the fact that you made the mistake and let us correct it. If you try to put a sort of layer on it over and over, there's no hope for that.
Yes.
It's just going to get worse.
Definitely.